Like Sophie Cunningham has leaked some super important information about the future of the WNBA negotiations and pretty much how everything is going. Now, this is an article that came out early this morning, kind of depicting everything Sophie Cunningham had to say. It's being reported that Sophie Cunningham sounds alarms with WNBA CBA negotiations. Sophie Cunningham's most recent WNBA CBA update is not what.
At the heart of this crisis is a fundamental disagreement over money. Specifically, how revenue should be divided and how salary cap should be structured. These aren't minor details. They define the league's economic foundation. And right now, the two sides are miles apart. The Players Association has proposed receiving 30% of gross revenue, along with a salary cap of approximately $10.5 million per team. Gross revenue means all incoming money before expenses are deducted. The league, on the other hand, is countered with a model offering roughly 70% of net revenue, which is calculated after expenses. This distinction is crucial. 70% of net revenue can end up being significantly less money than 30% of gross, depending on how expenses are categorized. That gray area is where negotiations often collapse. Both sides can claim they're offering generous terms, while the actual dollars tell a very different story. Players argue that last season's explosive growth justifies a larger share. Attendance surged. Television ratings spiked. Sponsorships multiplied. From their perspective, they created the value and deserve to benefit from it. Owners counter that despite growth, the league still isn't consistently profitable and cannot distribute money it doesn't have. Sophie Cunningham's comments cut through the diplomatic language usually used to describe these disputes. She openly stated that everything feels headed toward a lockout. Not hypothetically, inevitably, and she didn't say it once. She repeated it, clearly frustrated by the lack of progress. The timeline makes this even scarier. If negotiations stretch into February, a delayed season becomes likely. If they hit March without a deal, the 2026 season may be entirely impossible. The WNBA schedule already competes with international commitments, including Team USA obligations. Compressing a full season into a shorter window would risk injuries, exhaustion, and poor quality basketball. Nobody wants that. Fans want stars at their best. Players want to compete, not survive. A lockout would damage everyone involved.
Our CBA is so dumb right now that it's heading toward the lockout. So
no progress.
No.
Just nothing.
Honestly, nothing. We get weekly emails from the PA side of things, and it's just it's just so dumb.
Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this situation is what it means for the league's biggest star. Caitlin Clark hasn't played competitive basketball since the playoffs ended in October. That's already several months without seeing the player who drove record-breaking interest in the league. Clark turned down opportunities to play in Unrivaled. She chose not to go overseas. She committed fully to preparing for the WNBA season. But what happens if that season never comes? Asking a generational talent to sit out an entire year during her prime is almost unthinkable. There are alternatives. Project B is launching later in the year, but it isn't fully operational yet. Clark has already said she doesn't plan to play there either. Still, competitive athletes eventually need competition. If the WNBA shuts down, many players may reconsider decisions they once felt firm about. Sophie Cunningham's remarks suggest she believes a lockout is no longer just a possibility. It's probable. That's a dramatic shift from the optimistic tone used in official statements from both sides. Those updates have been carefully worded to sound hopeful while offering no concrete progress. Sophie didn't play that game. She said what many are thinking. This situation is getting worse, not better. Weekly emails saying nothing has changed only confirm how stuck the process really is. The WNBA stands at a defining moment. One path leads to compromise, stability, and sustained growth. The other leads to silence, empty arenas, and wasted momentum. Right now, the league is dangerously close to the wrong one.
We've got comments by way of Sophie Cunningham. We also got the Rebecca Lobo comments. But let's start here. Let's start with this low-rent BS from the Players Union. And I got to tell you, I keep talking about the way these players look, the way they're acting. They're making this league feel like it's almost like a minor league system of another professional league, like AA baseball. This kind of thing, in my opinion, makes the players look desperate. It looks like they're really trying to get something that has nothing to do with money. They're trying to make some kind of a power play statement. But the WNBA put this out. I know a lot of people's already covered this, but I at least wanted to have this up here going into the two other things I've got. For those, if you are asking, here's a petition. Please go sign our petition. As if Adam Silver in the NBA and the WNBA and Kathy Engelberg.
Sophie Cunningham just ignited a firestorm across the WNBA landscape with comments that fans cannot ignore. Speaking candidly on her podcast, she stripped away the usual public relations polish and delivered a blunt assessment of where the league is heading. According to Sophie, the ongoing collective bargaining agreement negotiations are not just tense or complicated, they are actively collapsing. She repeatedly described the situation as dumb, making it clear that frustration has replaced optimism behind closed doors. What made her comments truly unsettling, though, was her belief that the league may be barreling toward a full lockout. That word alone, lockout, has sent shockwaves through the fan base. If Sophie's read on the situation is accurate, the consequences could be catastrophic. A lockout wouldn't just delay games or shorten the schedule. It could wipe out the entire 2026 WNBA season. No tip-offs, no playoffs, no basketball at all. For a league that just experienced its most explosive growth in history, the timing could not be worse. What gives Sophie's comments weight is credibility. She isn't a media personality speculating from the outside. She's an active player with direct access to union communications, internal discussions, and league sentiment. When someone in that position openly says things are spiraling, it's not noise, it's a warning. And unlike carefully crafted statements from league officials or union representatives, Sophie wasn't trying to soften the message. She wasn't reassuring anyone. She was venting, and that honesty is what made it resonate. The bigger question now is whether both sides are truly prepared to let things collapse this far. Would players really be willing to sacrifice an entire season to secure better long-term terms? Would owners risk halting momentum at the exact moment the league finally captured mainstream attention? Fans are caught in the middle, watching a sport they love inch closer to self-destruction while negotiations stall. This isn't just about money or percentages anymore. It's about trust, timing, and whether either side believes the other will blink first. Sophie's comments suggest she doesn't see that happening anytime soon, and that's what has everyone nervous. When players start openly discussing the possibility of no season at all, it signals that optimism inside the process has evaporated. Now the debate shifts to fans and observers. Does this end in compromise, or does stubbornness win? Is someone going to step back from the edge, or are we really about to watch one of the fastest rising leagues in sports history slam into a wall? Sophie threw the question into the open, and now everyone is forced to confront it.
And if we ain't at CBA negotiation, the expansion draft for the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo likely would have taken place a month ago, guys. The lottery draft would have been a month ago, and teams will be gearing up for WNBA free agency now, which typically begins.
What Sophie Cunningham voiced publicly is something many insiders have been quietly worrying about for months. The WNBA's collective bargaining agreement negotiations are not progressing. They are completely stuck. According to those close to the process, discussions have gone nowhere since October, when the season officially ended. Now it's mid-January, and there is still no meaningful movement. No braxets, no compromises, just silence and stalemates. This kind of paralysis isn't just a behind-the-scenes inconvenience. It's actively damaging the league's operations. The off-season should be buzzing with activity right now. Free agency is supposed to dominate headlines, with teams reshaping rosters, star players changing uniforms, and contenders positioning themselves for championship runs. Instead, everything is frozen. Free agency cannot even begin without a finalized CBA, leaving fans with nothing but uncertainty. What should be an exciting period has turned into a frustrating waiting game. Instead of celebrating new signings and bold trades, supporters are watching two sides argue over financial frameworks. For casual fans, this may sound like dull business drama, but the consequences are very real. Every week, without progress, pushes the league closer to chaos. Players are stuck in limbo as well. Careers are short, and uncertainty costs real opportunities. Athletes can't plan their futures, teams can't execute strategies, and expansion franchises can't even begin assembling rosters. All momentum from last season's historic growth is bleeding away while negotiations stall. The most concerning part is the absence of urgency. Months have passed with no tangible updates. Sophie mentioned that players receive weekly emails from the union, but those messages amount to the same thing every time. No changes, no breakthroughs, no timeline. That kind of repetition signals dysfunction. When communication exists only to say nothing has happened, it's a sign that the process is broken. This deadlock is particularly dangerous because the league is at a crossroads. The WNBA just experienced record-breaking attendance, viewership, and media attention. Failing to capitalize on that momentum could undo years of progress. Fans don't stay engaged indefinitely without content. Attention is fragile, and sports audiences move on quickly when there's nothing to watch. What makes this situation so alarming is that it feels unnecessary. Both sides want the league to succeed. Both sides benefited from last season's growth. Yet neither seems willing to compromise enough to keep things moving. If this continues, the cost won't just be financial, it will be cultural. The longer the league remains stalled, the harder it becomes to regain trust and enthusiasm. The effects of the stalled CBA negotiations extend far beyond free agency. One of the most immediate casualties is league expansion. The Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo were set to enter the WNBA as new franchises, a major milestone signaling confidence in the league's future. But that progress is now completely frozen. The expansion draft, which should have taken place weeks ago, cannot move forward without a finalized CBA. These new teams need that draft to build their rosters before anything else can happen. Without it, they are essentially franchises in name only, unable to hire players, market identities, or plan for competition. The draft lottery is also stuck. This process determines which teams receive the top picks in the upcoming draft, shaping the league's competitive balance for years. It should already be completed. Instead, it's another piece of unfinished business waiting on negotiations that show no signs of resolution. This kind of stagnation creates a domino effect. When expansion teams can't function, the entire league schedule becomes unstable. Planning broadcasts, securing sponsorships, and organizing logistics all depend on clarity. Right now, there is none. From a business perspective, this is alarming. Expansion is supposed to be a sign of health. Pausing it sends the opposite message to investors, media partners, and fans. It suggests instability at the exact moment the league should be projecting confidence and momentum. For players, this limbo is exhausting. Opportunities that should exist, new roster spots, leadership roles, fresh starts, are simply unavailable. Careers are being put on hold while negotiations drag on. The longer this lasts, the greater the risk that expansion enthusiasm fades. New markets require excitement to take root. Delays undermine that energy. If a league cannot finalize its labor agreement soon, the cost will be felt far beyond a single season. It will impact the league's long-term growth strategy.